politically possible to undo the entitlements bankrupting this country? And if so, what course would you recommend to undo this legislation?
Well, first of all, we need to separate government from big corporations. That is one. Are you talking, what type of entitlements you're talking about? The entitlement programs?
Generally speaking,
Social Security?
Among others.
Among others, Medicare. Do you know what is the current figure for the unfunded liabilities of Social Security and plus Medicare? $107 trillion. Do you think that I think that this is the way to go? I don't think so. But again, we should encourage people to be more responsible as far as how they spend and how they save their money. And definitely there are ways to do that as well by encouraging a different taxation, which is different than what we have right now. I would be very happy there is a talk right now, surprise, surprise, about the application of VAT, value-added taxes, in addition to the income tax. I'm very, I would be more than happy to have a discussion about VAT if we would repeal the 16th Amendment, which called for income tax. But I think that the two of them together will not. I think that the VAT for itself will encourage people to also, or will give people the incentives also to save to such a degree that maybe later on in their later life they will have some, they have accumulated some financial resources that will help them to support themselves through the rest of their lives. Did I answer your question? I think that we should minimize entitlement programs as much as we can. $107 trillion, that is a huge number that it's very hard to figure out. And I mean, to imagine, just try to imagine $1 trillion. It's a huge amount.
What courses of action would you take or recommend to undo the entitlement programs that already exist?
It would be, I don't know if it's possible. It's going to take such a bipartisan effort to do so that I'm not sure that there is any way that it can be done realistically. But at least we can do some changes within the entitlement programs to such a degree that it will not become such a burden on the taxpayers. I don't know if you know, before 9/11, the second priority of the FBI was Medicare fraud. So there are a lot of ways to deal and to make entitlement programs more efficient. But the government needs to be efficient first before we can start to apply that same philosophy towards the entitlement programs that we are currently endorsing. Or
what do you believe the federal government's role is regarding the Second Amendment?
Can you be more specific?
As far as what the Second Amendment is?
Yeah.
Well,
no, I don't understand what you...
What do you believe the federal government's role is regarding the Second Amendment? What is their role?
I can't recall the Second Amendment, so you will have to refresh my memory.
It's the right to bear arms.
Right, I have no problems with that.
Okay.
What are your thoughts regarding the Patriot Act?
That's a tough one because I think that we are living nowadays in an environment where I come from a country which is dealing with or struggling with this issue for over 62 years to be exact from yesterday. So I know that these issues are always very, very much in the mind of everybody because very often there is some information that is available that can prevent the loss of a lot of lives. I would like to see something like the Patriot Act being acted under a supervision of at least 2, 3, or even 4 Supreme Court judges. And by doing that, trying or making the attempt to prevent from any kind of abuse of that program. So I would be more and more comfortable if I would see that there is a group of, let's say, not the whole Supreme Court, but a group, maybe 2 conservatives, 2 liberals, two from each camp, that will oversee the appropriate actions that are behind the Patriot Act.
Do you believe a state has the right to nullify a federal law?
It depends. If the Constitution allows that, yes.
What are your feelings about the Kelo Amendment domain decision?
The eminent domain, I think that it was a very disturbing decision to allow a municipality to take over property of people and give it to a developer for private profits. I think also that, I don't know if you know, but in the meantime, Pfizer, which was right behind it, dropped the whole issue. So they erased the buildings, and now it's like a flattened. The whole area is just flattened, and they would never do anything with it. I think it's a terrible thing. Eminent domain should apply only towards pure public use, such as schools, roads, and so forth. Nothing else.
Going forward, what do you believe our policy should be on the war on terror?
Try to eliminate all those who are trying to terrorize us. We should look at them as our enemies and not as our friends. So I know that there are a lot of discussion as far as what is preemptive and what is not preemptive actions when it comes to the war of terror. First of all, let's put it, there is a big discussion before that. There is a big discussion whether we should call it the war on terror or not. And I feel a little bit discouraged when some people try to manipulate the words or the terms to such an extent that it will soften the approach or our image out somewhere else around the world. Where the war on terror is the war on terror. There are some people, quite a lot of them, that are trying to terrorize us by many ways, through many means, and we should try to eliminate them as soon as possible. Because if we are going to sit and wait, they're going to get us like they did in 9/11.
Thank you.
Will you campaign on repealing the recently passed health care legislation?
Yes.
And how would you do that?
Through Congress. Just well, there are many. I would prefer a total repeal of the healthcare reform bill, but there are other ways that you can do that. One is defund certain aspects of it. Another one is that you can introduce or strip out of the bill a lot of things that are troublesome and introduce new sections in it that will be more favorable, the way the Republicans were talking about maybe. But I think that starting from the beginning would be the best way to do it. And to repeal a bill like that, you need a 2/3 majority in the House and in the Senate.